Welcome to The Human Experience, a podcast about the stories we live out every day and the importance of championing the vulnerability and courage of the storyteller. I'm your host, Jennifer Peterkin, and it was through my own lived story of experiencing domestic violence that this podcast was created. By traveling the globe and interviewing each guest in person, I am convinced now more than ever that stories have the power to change the world. You can join our community of storytellers by subscribing, leaving a rating and review, signing up for my newsletter, following me on Instagram, and more. Thank you for being here. In a world full of noise, to listen with intention is an act of resistance. So, Angela, it's so nice to be here with you in North Carolina in your beautiful home with your adorable dog.
Maya Deli.
I am not mad about having your dog to vet while I interview you. That's not a burden.
Very good. I'm glad. And obviously she is glad too.
She's like, yes, people, let's go.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, thank you so much for sitting down with me, for having me in your home to do this.
Thank you for wanting to be here and choosing me. I know everybody wasn't chosen, so I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah. So really, this is your story. I want to hear that from you and what that means to you. So if I ask you, what's your story? Where does that start for you?
Ooh, look, that's a great question and a big question. Mm-hmm. I wasn't prepared for the
broadness.
The broadness,
yeah.
Exactly. If you ask me my story, actually, I would probably start at now and work my way back, because so much of who I am now has to do with the look I've had to take from childhood forward. The great thing about the now, like on this particular day, is that I'm in the what I call transformation stage of growing, where I'm no longer pointing a finger at other people and what they did to me. I'm absolutely allowing myself to see the role that I played in some of the spaces that I've been in that have prompted pain but passion, and also much growth and healing. My story would begin with a woman who is 59 years young, and it took me 54 of those years to realize that the things that I was dispensing, resuscitating relationships for other people and resurrecting spirits for other people, renewing lives for other people, that I was sitting in a very dead place myself. But as a codependent, my fuel is the acknowledgement, acceptance, and appreciation from other people.
Yeah.
So when you're doing what I do and you get that all the time, you don't know that you're deficit of anything. And in 2019 is when I felt that deficit. And I was like, oh my goodness. I was seeing fewer people, fewer speaking engagements, and I lost the of my codependent. And it was the first time in my adult life that I was single. So single with very few clients. And then, the now has discovered that most of my friends were actually people from my audience and weren't friends. They were, and no slight to anybody, but they were clients or supporters.
Right.
And that was a wow. I'm like, how is it that I could be known and Googleable and know thousands of people and be someplace alone and in isolation and depressed and suicidal? My story now looks like me knowing that you can be depressed, suicidal, and do amazing work still. In these last 4 years, I've created an award-winning documentary. I've created a coloring book. I've published a book. And I was crowned Miss Full Figure North Carolina in 2022. And I did all of that depressed and suicidal.
Wow.
But the great part about that is that there's so much power in being aware. When you finally get that why, and you finally get that what happened, and and those answers are dispensed to you, those people that can work it, it's a beautiful thing to be able to take that information and to be able to grow from there. Because that's what I'm in the process. That's my story right now, is me being able to go, okay, then, something happened, to go find a tribe at 59, to go, I don't have a best friend, to be able to, and those things that you do in your 20s that you know, that, And so it's the opportunity. I no longer see it as a deficit, but it's the opportunity to be able to go choose. I get to go choose who I connect with, who I dispense to, who I drop all these amazing and juicy secrets to, and all that kind of good stuff. I really don't have a whole lot of secrets, but I tell all of my business. I'm so transparent. There's not much that anyone doesn't know. Yeah. But it's something to have the opportunity to be able to go and to be able to choose what that looks and feels like. And to be able to, as I grow along, to pull things from my past and go, okay, I wonder what this meant. And be able to really and truly be able to come to that. It's taking lots of therapy and lots of, I have the fortunate opportunity. I've been not at a full-time job for over 10 years. So I've had the opportunity, I've had the time, I have the knowledge because I have degrees in social work. I've been a therapist, motivational speaker. So I had all of these things at my disposal and able to use it for myself, with myself, most times by myself. And it's crafting to be an amazing story. Yeah. An amazing story. And I love that I don't have to go back on this day and go, such and such did such and such. I can tell you, this is the place I grew from. I'm working on just I, not them, they, because I realized that those people aren't ever going to be accountable for, and nobody's coming for me. It's something when you know nobody's coming. Yeah. No matter how loud you scream, no matter how hurt you are, no matter that nobody's coming for you, and that you're really going to have to save yourself if you want to be saved. Yeah. Yeah.
Because even if they wanted to, nobody is capable of that but you.
Where were you 20 years ago when I needed to know that? Definitely that was a discovery that people that know me say that I am deep and I'm deep feeling. And I do feel unapologetically I'm a deep feeling person. And I now know that for those people who, what I call kick it by the kiddie pool, they're not swimming out in the middle of the ocean coming to get me. Yeah. They don't know what's out there. I mean, and again, no judgment, no slight, but then that was a revelation for me. What do you mean? Won't love help you come on out there and get me and bring me back? Nope. Skills to be able to manage the waters you're in. And not everybody can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love that you use the word codependent so freely, because I think it's something that probably more of us struggle with than we realize, but we may not even realize it. We may not even know that we're codependent or showing codependent behaviors. So could you kind of explain codependency a little bit?
Absolutely. Let me tell you what's amazing about this. I thought to myself, if I had to pivot this into one place, it would be in this area, because so many people, as I watch movies, as I listen to songs, as I hear people speak, and, you know, of course, we're taught not to, as a therapist, I'm taught not to point and go, you know, diagnose somebody from across the street. But I do it all the time. I'm like, oh, my goodness, I know exactly what that is. My platform for my pageant was codependency. And one of the things I said in there is that codependency kills more lives and spirits than guns kill people. And for us not to realize what it is and what it looks like is of detriment to many of us. And if I had to describe what codependency is, what I came to believe it was for me, is really and truly, it was me being fueled by the acknowledgement, appreciation, acceptance, and awareness of other people. And that, I mean, so most of us that are in helping professions have some forms of that. It's so many different things. And you really don't know you have it until you're sitting someplace alone and craving to be in the presence of somebody you don't even like, just so you can have a body or something to do something for. Realizing that upon everybody going away, I wasn't missing their presence. I was missing doing things for them. Yeah. Realizing that I had been in many relationships, not ever seeking to be loved, only seeking to be loving. Like you, I could say you love me because you let me do so much for you and allow me to love you. Yeah. But I remember when it was identified for me, and I was a drug and alcohol counselor, I knew about CODA, I knew about codependency. I had never looked in the mirror and saw me. Sure. You know, none of that, you know, because of X, Y, and Z. But I remember feeling this thing in my stomach And it was a pain of wanting to be connected with somebody who I knew I didn't need to be connected with. Not just that, I knew did not give me any of what I needed to be able to thrive and flourish. But yet it was this pain to reach out, this pain to let them know how much they mattered and how much I cared about them. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, Angie, what is wrong with this? Like, why are you in the bathroom? Like, and somebody said, Angie, you might, literally it was this simple. It sounds like you might be codependent. And honey, anybody will tell you, I'm one of those kind of people. If you see something that I don't see, I'm going to at least look it up, do some research. And if it's someplace that I need to grow in, literally, I joined CODA that day. I probably went to over 150 meetings in 90 days. Really and truly, the first time I filled out the symptoms or the things that let you know that you might be, I found 7, and then I found 14, and then I found 31. Wow. And it was something, because as you begin to grow through the steps, you realize how much time I've been in that space. Yeah. Learning and growing all the while. But everything I did, from having a baby to going to college to moving to Las Vegas, everything in my life, I thought that I was definitely the leader. I had led nothing. Everything I had done was for somebody else. Going to college, everything I had done was for somebody else. And I remember thinking, because I used to be 360 pounds, I wished I could find a partner who wanted me to lose weight, because then I knew I could do it.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So codependency for me has been that dependence upon another for something that I absolutely should be able to get from myself or the divine, whatever you call that divine, whether it be God, Allah, the coffee pot, whatever that is, being able to get that from them. My license plate on my car says weightless, WAITLESS, because I've grown to wait less on man and depend more on my higher power and on me, and made a commitment to myself that I will never let me down again, ever. I can do that. Because guess what? There are people in my life that I've never let down. The only letdown has been me no longer allowing them to trample me with disappearing acts and nonverbal love. Oh, I love you, but I don't call you for a whole year, or
sure.
Oh, I really care about you. So those things, and it is, I see it more often than not, which is one of the reasons why I am transparent with it, which is one of the reasons why I call it out. There's probably not a day that goes by that I don't say codependent out loud, because somebody at least wants to know what it is, that type of thing. And it's important for us to know that it exists. And for many people, it is the driver of your being. And it is detrimental to our mental and physical health. For sure and for certain. And so, that's a soapbox I could stay on, really and truly, because it has been. And for me, being the person that I am and the person that other people see, it's something to be able to say that, and to have people go away, or have people, my truth being able, if you want to get rid of some people, set a boundary.
Right? Truth. Oh my goodness, yes.
Set a boundary, and absolutely half the people will scurry, and then exercise your voice. The rest of them will scurry, and then stop taking crap, and then the rest of them will scurry. And you look up and you go, really? Nobody was here for me?
Yeah.
So it was not a good way for me to, I would have liked the lesson in a different way that was less painful, but I'm able to take it how it comes.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's that adage that says, as soon as you realize you're on the wrong train, get off, because the longer you stay on, the more expensive it's going to be to get back.
Oh my goodness, I've never heard that, but Lord knows I won't take another train. Give me a bicycle.
I think your message is so important, first of all, because you're living it out, right? You're speaking from experience. You're speaking from work that you've done. But I also think it's so important because I think we have a huge identity crisis as people. And, I can only speak for where I live and well, I can really only speak for myself, but from observation,
right.
I think in the Western world specifically, we are very productivity driven. What can I produce? What can I add to? Where just being is, your humanity in general is the value. But believing that is really difficult because nothing around us enforces that or reinforces that,
Absolutely.
right? Nothing around us says that you are valuable just as you are. Nothing with depth, right? People may throw something like that out quickly, but there's nothing truly to follow through with that. And so we are constantly trying to check things off of a list.
Yeah.
I've achieved this. I've gone to college. I've gotten married. I've had a baby. I've, whatever. And then we find ourselves at 54 years old and looking around us and saying, oh my God, what is my life? Who am I? What am I doing? Yeah. So I absolutely agree with you that, your identity has to be something that you find, and I love exactly how I said it, within you and with the divine. Because you do have worth just because you exist as a person in the world. Absolutely. With a soul.
And it sounds, not only do we not get that affirmation, we actually get pounded into us the opposite. That it does matter where I went to school, what car I drive, where I live, those types of things. And I'm in a financially fragile position in this moment, and I'm positive that it's for the reason for me to note that none of that matters. None of that matters. So the type of belt I put on, the car I drive, the paintings I have in my home, none of that matters in the end, in the scheme of things. When we're taught that's all that matters.
Yeah.
So where we could be working, and I watch it every time. I've only been vending for maybe three or four times since I published my book. But I'm blown away at the things people will not even look at. They're not, when I tell them that this book is a lifesaver, and I said, I don't want your support, but I would like to save it. This is my pain repurposed, and I guarantee you that you will grow from it. No one is looking at that because nobody wants to look in a mirror. And I get it. I understand it. It absolutely was the hardest thing that I ever had to do. And transparency is the only thing that sheds shame.
Yeah.
And so I had to be transparent, not just transparent with what I was going through, but transparent with how difficult it is. Even knowing then that people won't even want to be around you as you grow. Somebody said to me that my freedom was offensive to people's bondage. And at first I'm like, why would that offend people? Because I don't have it. So the same way you got a car that somebody else don't have and they could be jealous, people could be offended by, how is this woman walking around, no friends, isolation. You're probably only the fifth person that's ever been in my home, and I've lived here for 3 years.
Oh wow!
And know probably 600 people in the area. How could she be free in that way? And all I can say to everybody listening is that it is possible. And if I could define glory, it would be being able to wake up and be with myself, by myself, about myself, taking care of myself on purpose. Because just 3 short years ago, I was looking at everybody and anybody to come and save me. I was begging people not to take advantage of me. I was, saying to people, please don't let this happen. Not taking any control of myself because I did not. And I still work with and hear that I'm not worthy. When my empty frames that I have on the wall here, it used to be that you could never come into my home and not see a bunch of pictures of everybody I loved. And so for all those people to have gone away and me get the opportunity to fill those frames with other people, I would have never, ever thought that would have happened. But the glory in that is that it taught me about why. And for me to go from blaming other people or believing it was the slight of other people to knowing that I taught people how to treat me and I did a horrible job. It's like I trained the people. How are you going to say they didn't know what they were doing? You never trained them to love you. You never trained them to be accountable to you. You never trained them to take responsibility for their actions. You never even, they never even had to apologize or say please or thank you.
Yeah.
I taught them that. And so when you implement those things, you're like, wait a minute, I never had to say thank you before. I never had to say please before. I was the genie in the bottle. You didn't even have to rub the bottle, baby. I would just pop out and make your wish come true.
Yeah.
And I did it for family, friends, and strangers.
Yeah.
Now, those things I do for myself. So I'm no longer asking other people to take care of me. I'm taking care of me first, and they can have leftovers, you know, whoever they are at this point. Many of those days didn't stick around for that, but I'm very clear about how that rolls out. And it's painful, but the process is freeing.
Yeah. You know, and I think too, you say leftovers, but when you are taking care of yourself, there is an abundance that comes out of that, right? I mean, it's not scraps. And so it's a real, truly, there's a depth to care that you can give and pour into people when you're doing it from an authentic place and when you're doing it from a place that you've healed or are healing, instead of doing it out of a sense of, if I don't do this, my identity is gone. Like, who am I without this? Yeah. And I think particularly too for women, you know, I think the whole identity in other people goes for everybody, but particularly for women, and I would say specifically for mothers. I'm not a mother myself, but it's just something that I've observed, so this is completely anecdotal. There is this expectation of like, well, once you become a mom, you completely lose yourself and everything is for your children, and there's an honor or a nobility in that. And I'm not saying don't take care of your children. I think mothers are incredibly powerful beings, and they should be taking care of their children. Right. But there comes a time when, if you're losing yourself to take care of your children, that doesn't just heal itself then when your children are grown, right?
Say that one more time for the people in the back. It absolutely does not just go away. And you and I have a very similar, I think about that now as I'm watching people, because in this current state, there would be no way in the world I would plan to have a kid. I just would not ever do that. And I would not want to bring a child into this world right now. But bigger than that, you think about anybody that you've ever heard wants to have a baby. And most people will tell you they want somebody, something to take care of. They want to get consumed in something other than their life. Yeah. And when I see people that are together that don't have children, those are people I know that are doing some work, because there's not a loss in something else. Now, as a parent, because I have a daughter, I've raised a child, you do get lost somewhat in that. And most parents spend their children's childhood attempting to reconcile their own.
Yes.
And that is deep, and they don't understand why, because they think that because I brought this thing here and I'm going to consume and everything becomes about them, it doesn't go away. That you just put more stuff on top of stuff. And here's the other thing, spoiler alert, that just because you raise kids does not mean that they grow up to love and respect you and honor you. So sometimes you're pouring for 16 years only to be called out of your name and disrespected and taken for granted and all of those things. And that is debilitating for a codependent who spent all this time doing this thing. And you want to go, what I did for you. And guess what they say? I didn't ask you to. How many times have I heard that? It's like, I did such a... I didn't ask you to. So I no longer do things that people don't ask me to.
Yeah.
And if I do it with no expectations. And that, we could talk about expectations for a minute. People talk about you shouldn't have expectations. I think there's absolutely healthy expectations you should have in every relationship.
Yes.
And so people that say, well, you shouldn't have expectations are people who don't want to or can't live up to an expectation. But I also believe that the expectation has to be higher on me and more dependent on me. So when people say that they're going to do something not to myself, I go, Angie, don't listen to them, because they're just talking. Oh, I'll talk to you later. They don't know I'm sitting here waiting by the window for later to come, because they're just doing this. That's the expectation I get to take off of them and put on myself. Don't you dare get caught up in what they're saying because they're just talking right now. The moment you walk away, everything they think and felt, and not everything and for everybody, but for the most part. But expectations are important because otherwise people get used if there's zero. But people that want to use people will say, well, you shouldn't have expectations.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I completely agree with you. I think that, like you said, you kind of have to learn how to temper your own self so that you're not constantly let down. And it's being let down and being disappointed is fine. You're allowed to, but does it ruin your day? Does it ruin something inside of you? Does it make you feel like you're not worthy? Because if it does, then that's not okay. And that's something that you have to look at. And maybe that's, I can't trust this person anymore. And I think that being accountable in relationship is an important part of relationship.
Absolutely.
And so in that way, yes, expectations are allowed to be there. You are allowed to have reasonable expectations within the accountability of a relationship. Now, expectations on strangers, you're setting yourself up there because there's no emotional investment in that, right? But yes, I agree with you.
Yeah, for sure. And you say not expectation. Strangers will say thank you and please most times when you're in relationships with people that you love and care for that won't or have not ever. Because in many cases, I can tell you that I didn't realize how that was optional when people spoke to me and about me until I wanted it and realized that it was not to be had. And people are looking at me like, well, why haven't you moved yet?
Yeah. And
I'm waiting on a can you, will you, not just the illusion that, okay, I need to get my car fixed. That's where Angie goes in her pocket and pulled out the money for you to get your car fixed. Or before, can you, those types of things. So yeah, and it's important again with that one, the expectation now is in me. I don't have to trust anybody, but I have to trust myself to take care of myself.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm building on. For a long time, I allowed myself to be in protective custody where I just literally did not go out. I, isolated myself because then nobody can hurt me. So now I'm in the phase of being able to practice. I've lifted all these weights. I need to see how strong I actually am, that I can go in public and hear people say what they're going to do or that they're going to bring or how they're going to feel or, those, and know that if it doesn't happen, I can then, like you said, temper my expectation. Okay, Angie, what do you need to do to balance that? I no longer spend the time or the effort saying, I can't believe I did that for way too many. I got sick of hearing myself speak.
Yeah.
Not being able to do that. And as a recovering codependent, we're actually going through line by line in the big book, and I'm doing step 4, which is a resentment inventory. Oh my goodness. We can talk about that off. And I have 18 of them thus far.
Okay.
And you talk about the person and what you're resentful of. And one of the revelations that is on the back talks about what you've done that looks like what they've done. And then there's the aha. And then in the end, you talk about the harm that's done. And many times I'm looking at the harm. I'm like, nobody else had any harm. I was doing everything for them. Not even in that point, not wanting to look at myself, the harm I've done to me and the role that I played in that.
Yeah.
So I can understand now why that's such a huge thing, people being accountable for their own pain. And there is something very freeing about that. When I don't have to worry, because if I don't worry about what somebody else did, I'm not waiting on them to apologize. I'm not waiting on them to take responsibility. I'm not waiting for them to speak, to hear my truth or to have any compassion for me. I'm able to do those things for myself. Because guess what, Angie, you played a role in that. And it has been very powerful and speaks directly to me being able to decrease and almost eliminate the expectation I have for people to be courteous and to be caring and to be compassionate.
Yeah. Yeah. And, to an extent that's hard and it's sad because, you would hope that it comes naturally. But I think the other thing too is we don't know what other people are dealing with in their own lives, right? We don't know what their day looks like. And so we make assumptions too about why somebody behaved the way that they did. And And that's a really easy road to walk down towards resentment, right? Because then we're making up stories in our head.
Oh,
and
my
we've got
goodness.
a whole novel going on, right?
Stephen King has nothing on me. I could write a horror novel that would have me under my own bed. Are you listening to me right now? But I do realize that I can also be Judy Blume, where I don't have to tell a horror story.
Yeah.
I can tell myself something that soothes me. You have to be self-soothing.
Yeah.
Being able to tell myself something soothing that brings me comfort and that can bring me peace, so that I'm not sitting in that horror story. And I do believe, like you, that 99.9% of us are walking around with something, and most of us aren't blessed enough to be able to manage those things. The workshop I did this past weekend had to do with emotions and people being able to identify their emotions, because fine, okay, and good are not emotions. And you can't manage what you can't identify.
Yeah.
And you definitely can't change anything or make things, elevate yourself if you're not able to speak to where you are. And you'd be surprised how many people couldn't tell me what they were feeling.
Yeah.
In that moment, having to look up the emotional wheel, and that's something. When you meet somebody, you can give me your name, you can give me all these things externally that you have, but you can't tell me how you're feeling. And that was just it's powerful.
It is, yeah.
It's powerful that people don't know that, but where were we ever taught to do those things?
We're not.
We're not.
Absolutely not.
We're not.
We're not set up for success in this realm.
Not in the
all.
human world. We educationally, professionally, in society and in community, but not individually.
No. And I would argue, if you don't have the individual figured out, it's really difficult to navigate any of the other, especially community.
Absolutely. When you're aware that, I just make the assumption that everybody is an addict and is suffering from something, and I give them grace. Because most of the time they're not walking around like me carrying 18 copies of the fourth step so that you can identify your resentment so that you can get to freedom.
Yeah.
Most people aren't doing that.
No.
And so I have to find grace for those folks.
Absolutely. But I would say looking in the mirror to start healing is some of the hardest work you will ever do. Because looking in the mirror is very difficult.
Yes.
It is uncomfortable. It is embarrassing. I mean, that's where shame comes in, right? And so I find it interesting that, when you talked about kind of identifying your codependency, how the first time you looked in the mirror, you could identify like a handful, but every time you went back, you could see more. And I think it speaks to the fact that it's a really difficult work to do. But the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Absolutely.
And it is also the kind of thing where you do see the results from it. And so you're like, okay, well, I'm going to keep doing this because it feels good. I'm feeling better. I'm getting somewhere with this. And
it's hard to explain to people. First of all, I call it the M&M, if anybody's seen the 8 Mile. And in that movie, they make a decision that he's going to air his own dirty laundry so that the other rapper can't speak about anything. So he talks about his mother. I do the same thing. So literally, when I say transparency sheds shame, if I talk about my suicide attempt, if I talk about my current depression, if I talk about my financial fragility, if I talk about having to sell things, all those, I'm not afraid of anything or what anybody else would think, because those things I've already reconciled with. Healing is something that most of us will leave here and not ever have done. I did a workshop this weekend called Getting Your Ish Together. And ish is intentional self-healing. One, making you responsible for those areas that you need to be healed in. And we define what hurt was. We define what healing was. And we also define what healthy looks like. Because most people don't have an idea of what healthy looks like, which is the other reason why I attempt to be transparent in the work and the journey. So then people go, oh, maybe I need to look at that, or maybe I need to do that. So it's not me pointing a finger. I'm not ministering to anybody. I'm just being an example for. And those things are just, it's powerful. And like you said, it's work. It doesn't have to, if in fact, you go to work, when we go to work and we know that we're going to get paid in the end, there's some driving force to that. Sure. And I tell people all the time, if I could explain to people the that you get when you don't need for something to happen, for you to be happy, for you to be at peace, for you to have joy. They talk about the pursuit of happiness, giving you the illusion that you had to go find it when happiness is inside of us all.
Yeah.
We've buried it, and now we have to go pull out all these, all this drama and trauma and stuff to be able to find it, but it's all in us. But they gave us the illusion that we had to go buy it.
Yeah.
That we had to go secure it, that it wasn't inside of us. And that piece is so very important, but you almost have to convince people, because we've been drinking the Kool-Aid for so long, you have to convince people that it's something greater than what they have now. I can only imagine. I know that when I sit here and how many people are on, Instagram and Facebook showing their best lives, that go home and are sitting someplace in a fetal position in their walk-in closet because it's the smallest room in the house. Because they don't have the ability to be self-soothing and to be self-motivating and self-elevating and all those. They're waiting on something and somebody else to do it. And so, discovering that there were things that could be elevated for me, but I'm that person.
Yeah.
There are many people that think what they have is the best thing going, or they just don't believe there's anything better. So it's more challenging to get to. I want to believe that if I could show them something to go, you can have this. Unfortunately, it looks like something tangible. And that's the reason that we kind of grow wrong with healing, is because it's not, I can't go, oh, look at my heart.
Yeah.
Oh, look at my spirit. Oh, look at my knowledge base has grown. They're like, I can't see that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I can't quantify it.
I can't quantify it.
And you can't show it to people either. I mean, people will notice, but it's not something that people necessarily outwardly value in our society.
Say that again.
Right?
Definitely not.
They like to reap the benefits of it, but it's not something that we would say we value from people.
That's very, very true. And I love the way you say it. I wish people could have seen how you said it, because you thought about it and you shook your head like, they don't value. And you all had to see the V come off, the value. There is not a value in us as individuals. We are only as valuable by what we can produce and what we can do for other people. And in this moment, you're helping me to elevate my game, because I often think that I'm not worthy of an invite. I'm not worthy of friendships. I'm not worthy of community. I'm not worthy of somebody, remembering it's my birthday. I'm not worthy of those things. And my value does not come from those things. They come from the place I believe myself to be. Yeah. And when you believe yourself to be, when you know who you are, nobody can tell you anything different. When you know your worth, nobody can give you anything less. But we have to get there. And it is very difficult because it's not tangible. And for some people, they would rather have riches than to be free. They would rather have things than to be alone. Because I'm like, man, I had so many more friends when I was codependent. Sometimes I just want to go have one day of codependency where, you got to be around other people and not be side-eyed, and people it's very, very, it's huge. And I hope that anybody listening and that would get the opportunity to hear this, know that it is absolutely worth the trek. And all I can say is you have to get here to prove me wrong.
I like that. So where do you think your codependency started or came from?
I can remember the first time I was able, my mother always worked very hard. I can remember she would come home and we never ate at the table together. My sister and I ate together. My mother would go to her room, spend a lot of time in her room. And I remember the first time I was able to get kudos or being acknowledged was when I co-signed a lie for her. And then I was the golden child for a week. Good for you that you were able to keep your sister quiet and you didn't say anything. And I'm like, oh, is that what you have to do? I mean, not that is the point, but that's when I learned that what you do for other people will get you acknowledged. It will get you acceptance. You will feel loved. And you know what? I'm so very thankful that I didn't fall into a place where I was then, having sex with people at early ages or allowing people to do things to me. I was blessed enough only to have to perform in certain ways for other people, having to give of myself. And like I said, everything I did, it just so happened that I think because my life was by assignment, everything I did was fruitful. So I went and got a degree. I had a daughter, got a good job. I made a movie. I mean, all of it being this exciting thing, but almost all of it was me tap dancing for somebody else. So I think it started when I discovered, or at least made it up in my head, that what I did for other people was going to be my worth. That was going to be my value. I only went to college because my mother said, first of all, I went kindergarten through 12th grade, not ever missing a day of school.
Wow.
My mother says, if I got to go to work, you got to go to school. So I got a work ethic that is bar none. You know, that I'm going, if I say that I'm going to be doing something for me, it's going to happen. But even that, for me to miss something, it was like, okay, it's me not performing. So everything came down to that. And that's where I kind of, in doing the work, discovered that where that came from, because that was such a big deal to me that I was able to be praised and cherished, and I might have got an extra ice cream or something happened because I lied and I kept a secret and I kept things in order. And so I began to be the fixer for anybody around me, for whether it be family, friends. I think I became a motivational person because I knew that if I gave you compliments and talked about and highlighted things that were amazing about you, you would then at least say thank you, because sometimes you don't even get that.
Yeah.
But in my mind, that was me saying, look at me and how much I'm worth to you, that I can be around you. And my profession, I'm a social worker. I'm paid to be in front of people and help in some way. I call myself a growthologist and teaching grown folks how to grow up. And even that, you kind of get, if nothing, you get paid. And then you get these other things. So in many, especially in my last relationship, I know I only stayed that long because I had a client base that absolutely fed into that. I had a radio, before podcasts, I was doing internet radio on E3 radio, and people were listening, going, "Oh my goodness, that was amazing!" Da, da, da. And how you're able to feed off of that, and when you don't get it, and your life crashes. And literally, I'm like, okay, what can I remember thinking in my head, oh, but that's okay that they're not talking to me now. When their mother passes away, they'll need you to help with the obituary. When their kids go astray, they'll need you for this. Da, da, da. Everything is when they will need you. And that was real for me. And I'm like, Angie, are you? So I can identify it all now. But in my head, that's where it started. I remember my family would get together. I would be in Las Vegas, which I stayed there for 15 years. And these past 3 holidays, like nobody from my family called. And then I made the realization they never did call. I called them. And so they could say, oh, we forgot. Like, how do you forget a whole member of your family? And it ain't but like 7 or 8 of us. How do you forget a whole member of your family is not present and not think to pick up the phone and call them, which whenever I'm there, I'm always calling, who's not here? Let's call them, FaceTime. I taught people how to treat me. Yeah. And most people don't want to relearn. Like, if I can't treat you the way I've been treating you, then we're not getting ready to do this all over again. Right. Yeah. And people not being able to, me not showing up for other people gives me the opportunity to show up for myself. And I want to be sad about it so much. I want to go like, well, I did for years, was just sad about it. But now I know that the freedom that comes with it is worth it. And it's been very painful. It's worth even that. Yeah. It's worth even that.
Yeah, it's a liberation, truly.
Great word.
Because I think that we don't necessarily miss those relationships. We miss what we thought they were in our lives, right?
The idea of what they were.
Yeah, what we thought they could be. And there's allowed to be grief there, right? We're allowed to grieve that.
Oh, absolutely.
But realizing that you don't actually miss a relationship that didn't really exist.
Absolutely.
There is a distinction there, and I think that is part of the freedom that comes with that, is that there wasn't a relationship.
Right. Ooh. Even to hear somebody say it out loud. So it's something when I say it out loud myself, it sounded very different when you said it.
Oh, interesting.
I remember the last friendship that I lost, which was just a few months ago, with somebody I've been friends with for 10 years. At one time called them my mirror for the reflection. I realized that I gave people these grand roles in my life when they really didn't do anything to earn them, but it was my way of making them feel special, drawing them in. And so when I lost that relationship, even though I just lost my sister, I lost my father in 2020, my sister in 2021. I mean, so I had loss after loss, but my non-death losses are abundant. And I end up going to a grief group, secretly going to grieve those people that are still walking and talking on this earth.
Yeah.
That I love and I miss, because it got to be too much. Like, how are these people, what I said to myself initially, how are these people able to live without me? How are they able to walk this earth and know that I'm sitting someplace and they don't know how I'm doing and they don't know those things? Very, very powerful, because I've reconciled my grief with those that have transitioned. I'm hopeful in my lifetime I get to a place where I can reconcile the grief of knowing that the next time I hear about somebody is going to be, you heard they passed away. That hurts my whole heart. And I write letters every day to somebody so that they will know upon my passing that I thought about you. And I wanted things to be different, but you're right. It's me grieving what I wanted to have. And most of those people went away when I asked for it, and they couldn't give it. Because I spent years thinking that the people that knew and loved me would do anything for me. And in 2021, I needed that anything, and people were not ready. They were not ready. And I wasn't ready for them to not show up. I remember my ex saying, I had a birthday party, and they said, you know, those people aren't your friends. And I was appalled, just jealous. And yeah, they were not. Many of them were supporters. They were, who doesn't want to go someplace to be invited and celebrated? Many of my birthdays, I would gather people and celebrate them. And nobody ever thought, let's turn the tables. Yeah. And I thought nothing of it until now. So yeah, that's how I know that codependency is so strong, that it is an addiction and should be up there with alcohol and drugs, because it's an addiction to want something and to do anything for it and not know why you're in the midst of it. Every addict will tell you, I looked up and I had a crack pipe in my hand, or I looked up and I had a drink, or I looked up and I was, having sex with somebody I didn't know. I looked up and I'm tap dancing for somebody who didn't ask me to tap dance for them. And they're not saying please, and they're not saying thank you. And you did it because you wanted to, which is the reason I kind of isolated myself. Because, I have to hear you say you want something, and I literally have to say to myself, Angie, don't. Yeah.
Wow. That's extremely powerful. And thank you for your vulnerability, because I know that's not easy. There's a lot there. And I think that more of us can relate to that than would even admit it.
And I absolutely, that's, again, one of my reasons for my transparency and keeping it real, is because somebody will hear it and go, oh, it's not just me. I can't believe that people still think that, but people still think like,
oh yeah,
it's just me, that nobody else. So no, when you think about it, I think about the amazing things. I am amazing on paper and in person. And when I think about the things I've had to endure, I'm blown away that that's the same person. Blown away that that's the same person. But it is. And many people, I wouldn't believe it if they were here and saw it all happen. I would not ever believe that it could happen, but it's possible. But it's also possible to grow from that place. And that's what I would love people to be able to walk with. Like, hey, I heard on Human Experience, this woman named Angela Harvey, and she said, yes, you can, or whatever, whatever it is, that you absolutely can grow from that place.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I think back to what you said earlier, that your freedom offends their bondage. And I think it's so true. We don't want to look at those parts because they're scary. And I have said this quote so many times on this show. It's probably like, people are probably sick of hearing it, but it's one of my favorite quotes by William Wilberforce, and he was an abolitionist, so, you know, it was in a different context, but I think it still applies. He said, "You may choose to look the other way, but you may never again say that you did not know." And I think, you know, one of our human inclinations can be that ignorance is bliss, right?
Oh, absolutely.
We don't want to look at it, because once we look at it and acknowledge that it exists, we have to do something. We have a responsibility to ourselves. In this case, we have a responsibility to ourselves and to our health to do something about it.
Right. And as it relates to self, because I will tell you that I can remember making sure that all of my important papers were on a clip, on a magnet, because I was absolutely ready to leave here, and I wanted to make sure that things were in order. And I thought about this. I thought, you know, on Facebook, you see it all the time. People say, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe such and such took her own life. And if I had known," and I've only done it once, but I absolutely think quite often, if I could tell you how many people I've reached out to or publicly said something, the very last year, somebody, "If you're not going to kill yourself, Angie, stop talking about it," is what I was told. And so I thought to myself, people can't say that if I had known, I would have, because I am living proof that even when you extend your hand and say, "Hey, I may not make it through this day, can you hold my hand?" People are not ready. And that's my whole purpose in being an example, because only a strong friend can help a strong friend. You almost have to be that person that somebody would, you know, that
Sure.
you have to be, because other people they're not coming for you. So even when upon hearing, and what's really crazy, that I could reach out to those same 20 people and tell them each I need $100, and they wouldn't hesitate to cash at me that $100.
Because it's easy.
It's easy. I had people to donate to my pageant. Not one person called and said, "Angie, what made you want to be in a pageant? I've never done it before. I've never done a movie before." You think people called and said, "We won been in 35 film festivals and won 12 awards." People didn't flood my phone to find out what. They would give a dollar to it. And that's when I realized it's easier to give money than to have a conversation. And definitely easier than to swim out in the middle of the ocean and help this woman who I think should have it together, because she helped me get it together.
Yeah.
And I had a friend tell me that, "Angie, I don't know what to tell you except I don't know how to help the teacher." How are you asking the students to help the teacher? That's on me for not ever having teacher friends. You know?
Yeah.
Only being surrounded by a bunch of students who are waiting on your every word. So yeah, when my sister passed away, it's probably the first time I ever extended my hand, but you couldn't have told me 20 minutes before I extended my hand that nobody would be able to help me.
Yeah.
Nobody would have the skills, because I don't think anybody maliciously didn't show up.
Sure.
I think people just did not have the skill set to be able to do it, and that it's a scary thing. So when people say, "Oh, I wished I'd known," I'm like, you probably wouldn't have been able, because 9 times out of 10, you were told something happened.
Yeah.
Nobody would. There's a subset of people that have never been able to say, "I had no idea." I would come back and haunt them. Like, "Oh no, you had an idea."
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a great point, because I do think that it speaks to how ill-equipped we are to sit in uncomfortable spaces and sit in tension. Because if you can't immediately, like, if I can give you $100 and that fixes your problem, well, then I don't have any more responsibility to you. I can walk away and feel good about it, right? But if you're struggling with wanting to be alive, and I can't immediately say something or do something to fix that, well, then where does that leave me?
Right.
Uncomfortable. And we're not good at that.
Uncomfortable or triggered themselves.
Sure.
For sure and for certain. And I need everybody to be clear about what holding space looks like. It does not look like fixing anything. It just looks like being present. If I could tell you how many people have said, "Well, Angie, you've been crying all day. Listen to me cry." But people, if they can't fix it, I think everybody now that's a friend of mine, I got 5 of them now that I've chosen, will never say to me, stop crying, because instantly you're telling me then to stop feeling.
Yeah.
And that's because you can't feel, or it's making you uncomfortable. And I didn't realize how uncomfortable my freedom to cry, my freedom to speak, my freedom to show up, my freedom to get things done, how offensive that was to other people.
Yeah.
But yeah, holding space is a powerful, powerful thing. I wish I could teach it to people, because you don't need to do anything. If I had known that somebody cared that my voice was still here, that would have been enough. And I ended up not following through with it because of that one.
Yeah.
My little Adele, my little fur baby, was a lifesaver. Because I know now, and I tell people it's my way of getting my codependency off without consequences. You know?
There you go.
There
I like
you go.
it.
Go get you a dog. Right. Because I was thinking like, maybe I should start dating. And my higher power was like, no, go get you a dog. That's what you do. You go get you a dog. And that's what I did.
I love that, actually. Yeah, that's perfect. This is a perfect place to pour your codependency.
Oh, absolutely.
100%. They can take it. They can take all of it.
Right. And they are, like I said, the very first article I was paid to write was about pets and people. And I was like, I will never date anybody with pets. People with pets are crazy. They did da-da-da-da-da-da. But that little one can get everything I got, for sure and for certain, because I know how many times I wet her coat with my tears, because she would literally, when she was smaller, when I got her, she was just 2.5 pounds, and she would sit on my shoulder, and I would cry and cry and cry and cry and cry and cry and cry. And yeah, right now, if I was to wipe this way, she'd come running and sit right here by me. So yeah, just perfect for that.
They are.
Yeah.
Now I'm really missing my dog.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I can't even imagine. Very seldom she travels with me everywhere.
That's great.
If I get on a plane, train, or automobile, she is right in the back seat.
Oh, I wish I could do that with mine. He is a very nervous boy.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha. So he's being taken good care of by my mom. But yeah, so I totally agree, definitely, with the dogs. Get a dog. But I think that it's an important distinction. You said this briefly, that you don't believe anybody didn't show up in a malicious way, right? And I think it's an important distinction, because people can easily get really defensive, right? When they're like, well, what did you want me to do? You know? And I think all of this comes down to, it takes practice. It takes practice to hold space. It takes practice to be able to sit in tension and discomfort and just be present and bear witness for somebody. Just like anything else that takes practice to get good at, you know, you don't automatically know how to play the violin because you picked it up once. You don't automatically, you're not able to run a marathon because you jogged up your street one time. It's going to take time, and those muscles need to be stretched and built, but everybody is capable of doing it.
Absolutely. You've said a whole mouthful there, and it took me a minute to understand that people couldn't come in my grief. They couldn't come. Yeah, I mean, even something that's coming to my home, people are not equipped with a lot of that. And it took me a minute to understand that just because somebody loves you doesn't mean that they can show up for you in that way. Just because somebody cares doesn't mean that they can show up in that way. Nothing personal. 4 agreements is not anything personal, but it has everything to do with their inability or their shortcomings or their whatever. So it's, and it took me a minute to stop pointing the finger at other people and to go, okay, Angie, because I hate that in many cases in my life, I felt like I had something somebody else didn't have, so I had to show up more. Now that could be my codependent thought kicking in, like they can't do it like you can do it. But I'm clear that in moments where I do know, in step 5, where I have to make amends to folks, I'm going to have to make those amends, know that they'll never see themselves and will walk away probably thinking, oh yeah, that was Angie's fault, or that Angie did. And I have to be okay with the fact that people aren't where I am. And I have in my coloring book, they say people that know better do better. Whoever said people know better do better lied. But because I do know better, I have to do better because I can't lie to myself.
Yeah.
And so I think, if someone could, if people could just be clear with being uncomfortable. How about that? How about we just be okay with being uncomfortable for the benefit of, and sit in it long enough for you to feel like you did stretch a little bit. Everything that we do for somebody else at some point should be a stretch. If you handed me $100, didn't nearly break your bank, that's the person that gives you $100 that only had $105 in the bank that's going to fill it. That holding space is so very important. And in most cases, people that are hopeless and depressed and those things, literally, that's what most of them need. That's what we need, just to be, for somebody to know.
Yeah.
To know.
Yes. To be known is to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
And to be understood is to be known. So absolutely. But it takes work.
Yes.
It takes practice,
right.
For sure.
Yeah.
And knowing that, again, like not falling into your own form of codependency there either, by saying, like, if I show up for somebody, like there still needs to be boundaries there. There still needs to be an understanding within myself that it's not my responsibility.
Oh, absolutely.
What this person decides to do. It's not my responsibility to make them happy,
right.
Take their depression away, take their anxiety away. I don't have that power.
Right, right.
But your presence is required.
Absolutely. I did a resentment inventory for the one friend of mine that said, if you're not going to kill yourself, then stop talking about it. And knew then that he was probably triggered. He absolutely, the role I played in that was me attempting to make him the almighty savior. That maybe he felt responsible. Like, if I don't do what I'm supposed to do, this lady could do X, Y, and Z, and how difficult that could be. That's a lot to carry. I'm a therapist. I know what it's like to have somebody in front of you going, but I have the skill set to be able to manage that on a professional level. And now I have it on a personal level. Many people aren't equipped with those skills. So in the end, I understand why he said what he said. Yeah. I understand why he felt what he felt. I understand that it wasn't anything personal. He wasn't saying, Angie, go kill yourself because I don't give a crap about you. Right. What he was saying was, man, what if I'm not able to do this? What if I'm not able to carry this? Yeah, you need to stop talking about this. It makes total sense now. When I say it now, it sounds different to me. That took growth to be able to get to.
Sure.
But I'm so happy that I could get to that place, because I would rather be able to work with myself and my shortcomings than to believe that everybody around me that I love and are in some way has a shortcoming that adversely affected me. There is a freeing to that. Like, ooh, okay, I don't have to feel that.
Yeah.
And now that you've said things out loud that I get to hear, because I don't get this type of conversation often, that's therapeutic. The process is therapeutic. And that's the other thing that people, I think, don't give enough credit to as a therapist. Processing things.
Yes.
It should be the way. Shared stories save souls. I believe that with my whole heart.
Yeah.
And so if nothing, we could banter and it doesn't have to be a trauma bond. It literally could be like tennis. You hit it back. Because in some ways, there's some relief that comes from a balloon when you put a little prick in it.
Release the pressure.
Yeah. And people have to get better at sharing their stories.
Yeah. And
sharing their pain and going, me too, or, whatever that looks like. And most people are, again, that makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah. And I would say there are a lot of people don't even realize what their story is or the story that they have. And so the thing that I overwhelmingly hear is, I don't have a story. And
wow.
Right. And I'm like, but you do. You're alive. You absolutely have a story. But there's no, as a society, as a culture, we have not placed any value in lived experience. We place value in degrees and in monetary success and in your position. And that's not to say that that's inherently invaluable, but it's not the only thing that holds value.
Right. Absolutely.
So
that is powerful that someone believed that they didn't have a story. But I guess in some places where people don't find themselves elevated in any way, in their mind, the story can only be the fairy tale story.
Or the overcomer. So if you haven't been through the worst thing possible, then we try to qualify people's pain and suffering and experience, and we say, well, that's not that big of a deal because so-and-so had to live through this. Well, no, that's not how life works.
Right.
And I myself find myself getting caught up in that. Like, well, it's not that bad. Just think about all of the other, well, okay, yeah, that's true, and I can hold space for that.
Right.
But that doesn't mean I'm not feeling something.
Right. I used to be judging the same way, like, girl, if you don't go someplace with that little problem, I'm over here doing this, you over there, what?
Yeah.
So yeah, it can be, it's very insightful to even get those things, because then you do recognize that things hit people differently.
Yeah.
Because I do know that my journey is not for the faint of heart, for sure. And I had to have a friend say to me, like, Angie, do you know that many people that you know could never do what you've done? For you to take a mirror and turn it on yourself and stay in that mirror day after day to get to a place where you only pointing the finger at yourself. Do you know that we're not doing that on purpose?
Yeah.
So I do get that other people have other things. It could be a hangnail, and that could be the story.
Yeah.
And somebody else is going, hangnail? Like I had my hand cut off. Like, what are you talking about right now? So yeah, It's not about comparison. They talk about that comparison can absolutely be detrimental to anybody's health.
Sure.
Which is the horror story of the Facebook and the Instagram, the comparison of what somebody else shows you. Because what you see and what you get are two different things.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things too, we comparison is the thief of joy, is like the saying. But I think that it speaks to a deeper way that we have chosen to live out societally. So as somebody that believes in God myself, something that I have walked through and processed a little bit in my journey is kingdom mindset versus empire mindset. So kingdom as in kingdom of God, empire as in the worldly kingdom, right? And so kingdom mindset is about abundance and empire mindset is about scarcity. Right. And so when we talk about comparison, that is the epitome of scarcity.
Absolutely.
Right? And so we only qualify each other's experiences and each other's pain because there's not room enough for us all to have these feelings, for us all to have these experiences. But that's a lie. Right.
It absolutely, positively is a lie. A friend of mine this morning just told me about YouTube. My 8-year-old granddaughter introduced me to YouTube because I'm not a YouTube person. I don't go on YouTube, and because I know I have I can get fixated on something and be there all day. So since I know that about my addiction, I don't go scroll on Facebook and YouTube. And he's like, there's people on Facebook making millions of dollars. And I said, but they would have you believe that there wasn't enough money or enough anything to go around. So whoever is paying someone who is, got a camera and following their lives, there's abundance out there. And you're right. The best way to get you conquer, in order for you to conquer, you have to divide, and then there has to be a lie that's told in order for people to believe that there's, type of thing. I remember, just this morning, I'm like, I wonder how she gets to go around, interviewing people, and you get to go into people's homes, and that must cost money. And then so in my head, I could tell myself that, somebody's paying you $150,000 per visit, thinking like, how come I could do literally how easy it is to get caught up in something, only to bring yourself back and go. So when I ask you about it, you're like, well, no, please know that I got a full-time job managing this. I'm pimping my passion with my full-time job. And that piece that, if misery loves company, you're in great company, just like instantly. And that comes from a mindset that was fed to us to go, whew, okay, good, they're suffering too.
Yeah.
You know?
It's not just me.
Right, right. Instead of seeking the elevation, and if we have to elevate together, if we have to, and I believe that sharing our stories is a piece of that. I believe that shared stories is definitely what's going to have to save the world, because it's harder to hate somebody and to hate on people when you know their story. It is harder to judge when you know people's story, but people have to begin. In my movie, I charge people at the beginning of the movie to see our stories, but then to be brave enough to go tell your own.
Yeah.
Look for what you can see that is the same, and then grow and tell your own. Because it's I believe that. And that's just something I've come to in these last few years of my living. Like, okay, and it just needs to be said, because it makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
Mm-hmm. Feel all warm and fuzzy. I don't have to pay you for the hour of consultation. What?
I mean, ditto. I feel like this is a symbiotic thing we've got going on here.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm glad that I crossed your path, and that I'm glad that you were able to be here, because not just that, I am very clear, whether it be 1 or 100,000 people, that the message will help. Somebody will hear it.
Yeah.
And somebody will say, what? And somebody will grow somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I can hope for.
I agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I do have one question that I ask everybody at the end of each episode. Through the lens of your experience, what does compassion mean to you?
Compassion means awareness. Compassion means communication. Compassion means acknowledgement. Compassion means showing up when you can, how you can, and where you can. Compassion looks like a stretch. Compassion feels like a hug. And compassion can also be very elusive. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time, for your vulnerability. Like you said, I do think that whoever is meant to hear this will.
Absolutely.
And that the transparency is the thing that sheds shame.
Absolutely.
So I know that this is going to help somebody, multiple peoples, and I'm excited for them to be able to connect with you and your work and what you're doing. And so we'll link to you in the show notes so that people can find you and keep up with what you're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. This has definitely been an honor. My first business was called Let's Talk. And there's a talk. I'm the queen of acronym. And talk is together acquire lasting knowledge.
Ooh.
I thank you for sitting at my dining room table in my home and allowing us to together acquire lasting knowledge. It has definitely been an honor. And like every place I attempt to be, I attempt to grow from every experience. And I absolutely have done that here. So I appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to The Human Experience. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe, share it with your friends and family, share it on social media, and rate and review it on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can also support the podcast financially by going to my website, thehxpod.com, linked in the show notes, and clicking on Donate. It takes a lot of time and resources to create this podcast, so every little bit helps. Everyone has a story, and I'd love to hear yours. So be sure to check out the show notes for more information about how to stay in touch. Do good and love well.